Hello, my fellow readers. This is iDarkSymphony777 back with another fanfiction review. As always, a link to the story will be in the description below. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, click on the bell for notifications, leave a comment in the comment section below on your thoughts on the story. And finally, this is my opinion. My opinion is not indicative of anyone in the world, so please respect that, as well as make sure to read the story before watching the video. You may notice that it's been a while since I actually uploaded. A lot of stuff has happened. I actually had to move back to my family, and a lot of time was like trying to set up, actually trying to record, because that's what having no way of actually finding an area in the house that's not my room because I don't have my room anymore. Is not exactly the easiest thing to do, as well as finding the time to actually record in that area and not have my family constantly doing stuff in the background. It was very, very difficult. So I'm doing it in my car. I'm also sleeping in my car. I'm not sleeping in I'm not sleeping in my mom's house. I love my mom, but I'm not sleeping in a roach infested house. Not doing it. So the story I am reviewing is a young woman's political record. It is a Saga of Tanya the Evil fanfiction by Jacob K. I had never heard of this manga until like not when it was suggested, because the story was suggested by someone. But I remember first finding about the story through Isekai Quartet, and even then, I only wanted to see Isekai Quartet through Konosuba because I like Konosuba, I like Aqua, and my friend actually made a joke saying, "Oh, Aqua beat up Ainz." It's like, who's Ainz? It's like, Ainz is the most overpowered isekai character of all time. Okay, wait, you're talking about Aqua, right? That Aqua, right? The useless one. Yes. How did you do that? Just watch the show. And I watched Isekai Quartet. I loved Isekai Quartet. And even like all the shows that Isekai Quartet is, Tanya was like the only one I never heard of. I watched Konosuba. I heard of Overlord. I at least heard of ReZero, mainly due to people cracking jokes about when White Aura Whale came out in like the Yu-Gi-Oh trading card game, and a lot of people compared it to like the whale in ReZero, so that's how I found out about that. And in season 2, when Shield Hero came, I found out about it through. I found out about Shield Hero through that whole controversy with the princess and the false rape accusations. Yeah, fun times. But I never heard of Saga of Tanya the Evil. Never heard of it. So, now we got that out of the way. Let's actually get into the review. So, the review actually takes place in the time, I'm guessing, at the end of Tanya the Evil, because I believe I never watched the show, so I'm not really going off anything here. I'm more going off world history, because this kind of follows that. The story starts at the end of World War One and stretches all the way to the end of World War Two, and it has Tanya basically pull a buggy to clown, where she fails upwards. Oh boy, it was fun. So World War One ends, and Germany. I'm going to be using the World War counterparts as much as I can, mainly because I'm just more used to saying it. I know in the manga, in the anime, it's called Germania, so just bear with me. Germany suffers a heavy amount of taxation just in real life with what happened in World War One, because it happened, following history, sort of a thing. That's supposed to be this kind of vibe story. Sorry, I'm a little rusty. Let me actually pull something. There we go. I wanted to pull up something real quick to say something when I got around to it. Germania, or Germany, is suffering from a very, very bad case of hyperinflation. Their economy is failing. Nothing's being bought. People are getting mad. People want a second war. Basically, what happened in real life. Tanya, being the super pragmatic character she is, sees the writing on the wall, sees everything going on with Germania, all the hyperinflation, the entire economy collapsing, and she's like, right, I'm going to go into politics. Yeah, that's the story. Tanya von Dugelschraff goes into politics because so she can get the money, and so that way when she gets exiled, she can actually have something. And what happens? Well, a lot of stuff happens. She goes into this very extremist party hesitantly because he's like, it's the only party that will accept me. You gotta start saying blame someone. And she feels upwards when she slowly takes over the party. Even like the director's like, oh, she's taking over the party. I'll let her have it. She gets a majority in the parliament, and she becomes counselor. She becomes head of parliament. And even though the story's technically completed / last clear, there was actually supposed to be an epilogue because I was told by the person that there was supposed to be an epilogue. I'm guessing in the epilogue, Tanya would become like president of Germania. Like she would be the person in charge. I think that's how Germany politics works. It's like the counselor has like the big second in command because they're like they're the head of the parliament, and then you have the president, not the president, the president sort of thing, the person in charge of the entire country, and then you have the chancellor underneath it. That's probably, since near the end of the story, the president died. It's not really much of a spoiler because he's really not important to the story. My guess is, Tanya would have been ranked up into leading the entire country because she technically was already doing it because the guy was already sick for like years. So it's not really much of a, and hence why it's not a spoiler. Like she was already technically leading the entire country. She just didn't have the title because the guy who had the position was already sick, and that's. But yeah, Tanya slowly works herself up. She brings in all her friends. She brings in Victoria, General Vin, all her friends from the Mage Corps, and they slowly try and. She's like, oh, we're gonna fix the economy. We're also gonna fight the Russians. She's basically like every politician ever, but at least she's like, she kind of knows it because she just wants to leave politics and get like a cushy island somewhere. She's like, I believe in fixing the economy and doing this, and also declaring war and all this. It's like, why are they gonna declare war? But listen to what I say. And the story is presented as a kind of alternate history of the events between World War I and World War II, and also the events of World War II. Because she wants to avoid, and this is like the biggest plot point, is she wants to actually avoid, the reason she's doing all this is she wants to avoid World War II from happening. She basically wants to, the whole adage of those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it, and she's actually learned from history from knowing the events of what happened between World War I and World War II. Not really, but she knows how World War II happened, so she's trying to make sure that doesn't happen. However, the best way I can describe this specific plot and this specific theme is with a quote from Mark Twain, being, it is not worthwhile to try and keep history from repeating itself, for man's character will always make it the preventing of the repetitions impossible. Basically what that means is, it doesn't matter how hard you try, certain things will always repeat itself. And that's basically what happened. World War II did happen, despite the fact that Germany did fix his economy by the time it happened. But Germany was actually the good guy. And there's actually a part near the end, like around the beginning of the war, where she's like, when she made where she made all these promises that they were gonna, with all these other countries, to protect themselves, unite specifically against the Russia Federation, which is like a big old communist area. That's like another thing is she always hates the communists. Um, and one of her generals actually refers to it as Central Powers. Central Powers being the actual term of the good guys in World War II, and she completely mentally loses it. It's like, oh no, oh no, oh no. It is at that moment she realizes that no matter how, like, she actually tried to avoid history, but she realized history is going to repeat itself anyway. So that's but not in the way she's expecting it, because in the story, Germany is the good guys. I never thought I'd say that, Germany being the good guys in World War II. Oh, but yeah, it's more or less the bulk of the plot. It's just Tanya getting into politics to save her own skin and exile to like a lonely island, and then her basically fixing the economy. And then eventually World War II happens. That's more or less the bulk of the story. This is more of a character focused story where it focuses specifically on one character, i.e., Tanya. So that makes a lot of sense. That there wouldn't be much of a plot because it's more focused on showcasing Tanya as a character throughout this time frame. Uh, that kind of leads into Tanya's character, or more accurately, the lack of character from everyone else, because the author does something different with this story. Uh, the author, while keeping the focus on Tanya, does switch point of views to other characters by switching it from first person to third person. Every time when it focuses on Tanya, it's first person, but when it focuses on someone else, it's third person. And there is a slight problem with this. This is just my thoughts. The fact that it doesn't really, that 9 times out of 10, whenever it focuses on someone else, it's still technically focusing on Tanya, because the characters are basically reacting to something Tanya did or something she might hypothetically do. Like there's a part where they're kind of worried about Tanya bringing the people's car to America, and they're kind of getting paranoid that she's gonna subvert the American vehicle stuff, infrastructure. There we go. As she might subvert the American vehicle manufacturers. And she's like, I don't know. When she finds out that the other car ownership's actually trying to do that, it's like, no, I just want to fix our economy. That's basically Tanya's reaction. I just want to fix the economy. Which is fine and handy. It does keep the theme of focusing exclusively on Tanya realistic, but it does get grating over the fact that no one else really has any character. That kind of plays a part in what I consider the only real flaw of the story. That being Victoria's reveal that she has feelings for Tanya, which really kind of comes off as hollow. I know in the story there is foreshadowing of this fact. Like there's plenty of foreshadowing whenever Tanya and Victoria are together. It's foreshadowing the fact that Victoria may have feelings for Tanya, but doesn't act upon them because she always sees Tanya as yeah, Tanya is just extremely pragmatic and thus doesn't think and is thus really overthinking things. Like she's not dense in the story, like not like the whole cliche John Arc thing in Rubies. She's just overthinking things and thinks, well, she's in love with someone. It's just probably not me because I'm more focused on trying to fix the economy and trying to get exiled. And thus doesn't think Victoria may love her. I love the fact that she's still, even when she gets older, like I think by the end of the story, she's in her like mid to late 20s. Uh, she doesn't think that being small, she's still small. She never really grew up and got another growth spurt. That Victoria wouldn't love her, or probably Victoria loved another man, or if she, I'm progressive. I like if you love a little woman, I would be happy with it. It's just she overthought everything because she had her mind so focused on everything else that it didn't matter. But when the reveal when Victoria went for the kiss in the story to Tanya to show her feelings, it came very off as not really having an impact, and that's mainly due to the fact that Victoria doesn't have a character. Like at no point in the story does it switch point of views to Victoria. Like it's kind of a very missed opportunity. Like that's my opinion, and it kind of off as really lacking in that department. Grammar's good. Like yeah, it misspells Germain. Yeah, like, people who are like fixated on like don't know this theory may look like Germania is like no, I'm supposed to say Germany. It's like pretty. It's supposed to be spelled that way. So say that. Pacing and sentence structure. The pacing is slow. Keeping it focused on Tanya is great. I know I got this is kind of me repeating myself from the character portion, but it's fine. However, it does present a little off-puttingness that the story does really jump cut into years. Like there are in between chapters, months pass. Like there are times where like even in only chapter like months or days can pass, and it is kind of off-putting. Once you get used to it, you realize it's not. It's really just a feature of the story. It's not really that bad, and thus really kind of gets you into the swing of things. But the story and sentence structure. Hold on. Sorry, got messages from my job. So that's the review. What do I think? What do I think of the general state of it? I think this story is okay. I'm gonna recommend it. Granted, it's a very niche story because you gotta understand. This story has a very, very heavy focus on politics. And nowadays, politics is very divisive. And especially since the story makes a lot of fun, it has a kind of right-leaning sense of, a politically right-leaning sense of how the economy and stuff like that should work. Excuse me. So, so not everyone is going to like this story. Not to mention, come out with the fact that this is a single character focused story, meaning it's going to be very even more niche. It's like okay, so you have to be specifically a fan of Tanya's character, and you have to specifically be a fan of politics, or at least willing to kind of not really get upset about the kind of politics they're talking about. That's a really, really niche story. I do think, to those people, it is actually worth the read. It's not a great read, It's not something that's out of the park, blow your mind away, but it is a nice little story that I believe does what it's trying to do very well, and that's focus on a sort of retelling of the events between World War One and World War Two, and how someone like Tanya may actually be able to fix the economy. I think that's actually done really well, and in that regard, I would call this story a success that way. Like I said, it's not great. It's nothing too spectacular, but it's good enough that I could say without hesitation that I would recommend it. Favorite part. There's not really anything that stands out. Yeah, there's nothing anything that really stands out in the story. It's just a solid all around story. Nothing, just nothing. Wait, there is one moment, and that was I guess you could say Tanya's freak out over finding out that history is repeating, and I guess her strange acceptance of like, it's gonna this is gonna go well. Uh, and finally, what would I change? There's actually three things I would change. One, I just cut back on the whole commie thing. I'm not a communist. I don't believe in any of that stuff. But good God, it kind of got annoying having to read about Tanya hating the commies every like paragraph or two. It got really annoying really fast. I know the author's not going to change it or change anything like that. That's kind of part, and this whole commie thing is part of the story, especially since when World War II does happen, the communists are the main antagonists. So I'm more conflicted on whether or not just getting rid of some instances of it actually makes some sense or not. I'll leave it. Two, change the ending. The ending's really weird because you would think a story that focuses exclusively on Tanya would end, well, not counting the epilogue, because again, I'm more guessing that the epilogue would have ended, the story properly would have ended in the epilogue with Tanya becoming president of the entire country. But as it stands right now, without the epilogue coming out, the story actually ends with some random character who was introduced halfway through the story through when Germania hosted the World Cup. He was a goalie, and then he became like a Fritz X bomb writer, basically the guy who controlled the bomb and he piloted the plane and he kind of remote controlled the bomb. Kind of being bummed out that they're not going to bomb a big area of the communist country, when it turned out the bomb was actually a nuke, which is actually like, and him and his team were like bummed out. It's like, oh, we can't drop that payload. It's like, I wonder why is that bomb bigger than everything else we would have find? I don't know. Oh, and it ends with him like kind of, holding on to a wooden statuette of Tanya von Dugatroff. I think that's kind of weird, a weird way to end it. I know that's not really originally supposed to be the ending. I'm just going by what's in the story right now, because if the story, again, there's supposed to be an epilogue, and I can't really judge this one too harshly. But what I can say definitely needs to be added is any point from the beginning of the story to chapter 39, adding a part that focuses on Victoria from her point of view. I honestly think this is the one out of the three things that should be changed. This is the one that definitely should change. You can make an argument for not changing the other two things, and that's fine. I would probably agree with you, but I do think the kiss needs to have more impact, need to have more oomph, and I think the only way to do that is simply add a part anywhere between the beginning of the story to when the kiss happens in chapter 39, of showing a scene or two from Victoria's point of view, like kind of just going around doing Tanya's job, maybe doing some polling, and kind of talking about Tanya. Like you can literally do anything, and you won't really change anything about the story. You just be adding a new part or two, like because it just doesn't. That kiss just doesn't lack anything. Like it just needs more impact to kind of sell the scene better. We needed some more. We needed some in depth in the mind of Victoria and where she was mentally during that time frame, and all that was. Yeah, there was a part in the story where that takes place through someone else's point of view, talking to Victoria, kind of convincing her to catch Tanya because Victoria's like trying to be sly and suave and all this thing, and Tanya's too pragmatic and kind of distracted by everything else to not really be paying attention to that. And she was told to be more direct, but I don't think that's really enough. That's just more. It plays more on doesn't really build upon Victoria's character because it's not because that part doesn't really focus barely if ever focuses on Victoria outside of that one little moment of just saying be direct. We're not giving any insight into her character. We're just kind of the flip side of having a character driven story that kind of goes into the point of views of other characters in the fact that you're not really building upon those characters. So that's just basically what I would do. Just add a new scene, give some insight into Victoria, and that's it. So that is my review of A Young Woman's Political Agenda. I have to say, I like the story well enough. Dang it, I'm gonna get my throat. So this has been Dark Symphony 777. I do apologize for the long wait in between this review. I will see you next time, and